There's some tubes in the lower right.
I'll do the 50 and then I'll wait to make sure we have the time.
Video, can we back out a little, and then pilot, can we turn the lasers on just for scale here? Just a quick shot of that.
Well, actually, this is ROV Nav.
Go ahead, ROV Nav.
Well, I would like to let you know that we have finished another 100-meter transect, a total of 800 meters today.
Roger that, 800 meters. Thanks a lot.
Very nice. All right, should we
Andy.
mosey on?
Okay.
Last few minutes of our dive.
Degrees.
All right, full wide video.
That is definitely a substantial hole.
Yeah, and Scott France pointed out that it must be old because others have taken advantage of those walls of the pit and made their homes in it. So it certainly didn't happen yesterday.
Yeah, and Tina pointed out called this an amphipod hive, and there are crustaceans that actually use sponges like bees use hives, and they are social, just like bees are with a queen and worker shrimps. So those are snapping shrimp that inhabit the sponges in shallow waters. So who knows? Maybe there's actually a social structure involved in that group of amphipods.
There's a mound down below. We don't have to zoom in on it, but looks like it's an older one, and looks like it had a recent snowfall. So this, you can think of this sediment just like snow. It settles on top of pre-existing features and buries them, and if enough sediment buries on top of older sediment, then the deeper sediments, the older ones, become compacted and the water gets squeezed out and more deposits on top of them, and that the grains become completely compacted and next to each other, and there's only a little bit of space in between, and that space is still filled with water, not with air, but eventually that water precipitates the minerals out of its solution, and that's what binds together the grains. And that process from being individual grains like what we see at the surface, we would call this an ooze if it's mostly organism remains, or we would call it mud if it's just clay and other minerals, clay particle sizes and minerals. Eventually, once it starts getting squeezed from being buried, we call it an indurated sediment. And you can have degrees of induration. The more squeezed and compacted, it gets stiffer and harder to disaggregate, but that becomes a well-indurated sediment. And eventually, when those grains get cemented together by those tiny bits of fluids that remain between the grains, then we have lithification.
Sounds good. Feel free to fire
and
away.
That's when we start calling it a rock.
We'll record the time.
So we have degrees of induration leading to lithification. And of course we have names for all of those different stages, and it all starts with what is the sediment composed of
1821
and what are the grain sizes. In this case, I'm fairly sure that most of the finest material are the hard part remains of planktonic algae that create tiny microscopic calcareous or calcium carbonate remains, maybe some diatoms that make silica-rich remains, and their hard parts settle, and they're the finest sizes of materials here, and that makes up the bulk of the sediment. And then the slightly larger material is based on what we saw from yesterday's sample, is almost solely made of calcium carbonate. And it is foraminifera, which is a single-celled organism. It's not even an animal. It's in kingdom Protista. And they are extremely abundant in the oceans and make up huge percentages of the world's deep-sea sediments. And we don't find them in great abundance near shore because
come on in video.
there are too many other sediments that kind of overwhelm their numbers, so it's harder to find them in the amounts of sands and quartzes and all the other materials that come off of the continent themselves. There's a little ping pong ball.
Yeah, we've seen this guy several times now. I was trying to see if we had identified
full wide
it.
video.
And based on our lasers, it's only about 5 centimeters in diameter. The lasers are 10 centimeters apart.
Go ahead, watch one. Okay. I'm just about to put the lasers on it right now. Is that what you're talking about? Okay. Okay, behind it to the right. Oh, but like behind it, like farther away from D2? Okay.
Tilting down. 75 degrees, 80 degrees.
The white spot? Okay. All right, I'm just about to put it right between lasers right now. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, that is that little bushy patch right there. Maybe.
Ooh.
Yeah, you've got your tail into the current.
Okay.
So it's
Here,
gonna
I'm gonna.
have to approach it from the other side.
All right, we've got some time. Well, I guess we don't.
Looking down 90 degrees.
Whoa. Sorry about that,
Having a
actually.
bit of a storm.
They were predicted for today.
Yeah, when there's like a lot of current, it's always good to like turn in the direction that you face into the current so all your dust blows behind you.
Copy that.
I know we didn't really know exactly what we were zooming in on, but
Sure. I'm sorry, watch lead. We're gonna have to go past that one.
Okay, that's all right. The ship is still moving, so we couldn't stick around and look at that any longer than we did.
tilting up.
I'll get way out in front, watch lead, so if we see another, we'll have some time.
Tilting up. I'm looking 40 degrees.
Looks like a little more marine debris, sadly.
Yes, that was probably our 4th piece of marine debris we've seen today, I think.
Yeah, and for being 300 kilometers offshore, that's surprising.
It sure is.
Okay, you're out at the end of your tether now.
Okay.
That might be another little amphipod swimming.
So Lars, how much time did you allow for setup before you need to start to ascend?
4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Is that enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent.
Oh, I see. You mean 3 minutes? 3 minutes should be perfect.
3 minutes. Copy that, Bridge. Thank you very much. And if we could come to an easy stop, please.
Let's
Or stay at an easy stop.
So the end of the dive is quickly approaching here. We have just a few
good
more
copy,
minutes
Bridge.
left
Thank you.
on the
we
seafloor.
should be settled out by
I want to
18:37.
thank everybody for
and then
tuning
we'll
in
have 3
today,
minutes to
especially
set
on a
up.
Saturday.
And by
I know that
18:40, we'll be ascending.
there are probably
So
many other
work out with
things
your
you could be
timing.
doing.
That's correct.
Thank
Cool.
you for joining us and helping us narrate what we're
Just
seeing here.
time for, is it Josh to take over?
Unfortunately, my chat list is not correct, and I can't see everybody, but Scott France and Les Watling, Tina Maladovsa, I hope I was at least close on that. Who else has been with us?
Rachel Bassett. Megan McCullough.
Tara Luke. Adrian Copeland. Bob Carney.
Scott Harris at some point. Oh, there he is. He is still here. Thanks, Scott. Scott, I'll let you know what I find in those sediments. No rocks today. I want to give a shout out to my students at the College of Charleston in the visualizations lab. They are documenting as we go and inviting anyone in Charleston to come visit between 10 and 2. Led by Trey Gillespie. Shout out, Trey. Trey just finished his internship with NOAA. He was one of the shore scientists for the last cruise, which was a mapping cruise. And now he's leading a team of 3 or 4 of the seafloor mapping team from the College of Charleston. It's called the BEAMS program. And we appreciate all the social media hits you're generating. Thanks.
We plan to have a dive planning meeting go over tomorrow's dive and plan for the following day's dive at what are we, 2:45? Yeah, at 2:45. So anybody who's interested, please call back in about 15 minutes.
And tomorrow's dive will be at, we're returning to the Blake Escarpment. We were there on our first dive. We're south of where we were, of course, and it'll be a similar type of environment, a little shallower than the first dive, but we expect to see some rocky outcrops, so we assume we'll see congregations, larger, denser communities of organisms, likely many sponges and many corals. So I hope you'll be able to join us tomorrow. We'll start a little earlier because it's not quite so deep. It's almost half this depth, isn't it? Yeah. It's about 1,300 meters tomorrow. So we'll probably start somewhere around 9 o'clock.
I would imagine.
Between 9 and 9:30. So read your Sunday paper and watch us live.
And you all can drink coffee while you watch, but we're not allowed to in the control room, so have some coffee for us, too.
I think that's the most difficult thing for us to get used to is we can't sit at our computers and look at the monitors and have a cup of coffee or water in our hand.
Definitely cutting down on all my fluid intake, yes. Coffee, water, everything.
And snacking. We're not snacking either. So it's been a very different kind of dive, but very interesting. As we've said many times, we really didn't know what to expect in terms of the organisms inhabiting this very vast expanse of muds that have been moving around from swift currents for decades, millennia, who knows? Well, certainly millennia. And those currents have formed these very giant bed forms, and we spent an entire dive just going from the top of a short one down into a shallow trough and then climbing the backside of another. And that took 4.5 hours. So these are enormous features, and very interesting in that the bed forms really are not habitat for a lot of megafauna. We didn't expect that, but what we also didn't expect to see so many sponges clinging to the sargassum seaweed that had settled.
Yeah, it was interesting that almost everything we saw was stalked. So this mud must be so soft.
Yep. Sending some root-like structures down into the sediment to hold on to something, and then sticking its neck up into what current does exist. There's not a lot of food out there. Surprising to see so many of those rat tail. They're fairly large fish, and wonder what they're eating.
Pilot?
Maybe they're causing all these giant burrows in search of food.
Co-pilot, I can hear you pretty well.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
All right.
Or things like the occasional copepod that we saw swimming in the water column. That seems like a very dangerous move to me. A bite-sized morsel sitting out there by yourself.
That's probably also why we don't see too many of them.
Yeah.
Okay, video. Did we see this already? Yeah, about 7 minutes. Okay, all right.
6 minutes until we got a... Yeah, we got 6 minutes left. Video. I think, is that right?
So what time are we supposed to get ready?
40.
We need to leave bottom at 1840, so a couple minutes before then we can start stowing everything.
All right.
So you have time to fly around and see what's around here.
Comps look pretty good. Josh, did you see Sirius CTD DO? Fernando showed me.
Yeah, I saw it this morning.
Did it look good this morning, or did it look bad this morning? Okay, so ever since the beginning of the dive, it looked...
Yeah, we saw, if you open the Sirius page, we saw a ground fault when we hit the water.
Oh.
And down to like 200 km. And then as we dove, it increased. So I'm curious on what it's at right now. If you want to look at Sirius. The DC bus.
It's up to 500K.
Yeah, so it got up to like around 560. And then held there. So.
And when did you turn the CTD
So
off?
we're still here
Did it
because
clear?
of
we haven't.
ROV.
I don't know if they tested it.
We'll see what happens when we come
Needs. I mean, nothing's wrong, but our
So
our
actually,
specific dive
this
ended.
is pilot. I don't know what the last navigator informed you. We have about, well, now we only have about 2 minutes, so we're gonna start stowing everything at 1838.
I guess what happened was we had a changeover of the ROV pilot switched out.
And they're slowing everything down and getting ready for ending the dive.
For ascent.
But we get a couple more minutes to glance around.
Survey the landscape. A similar scene to what we've been viewing all day, basically.
Some little mud mounds on a flat mud surface.
can take a quick zoom of that, or are we
Yeah, I
unable to
think
do?
that might be sargassum. Come in video.
I think it's just sargassum, but it's one of the few pieces of sargassum we've seen that doesn't have something significant
Hold right there.
growing on it. Maybe that's a newer piece.
Mm-hmm.
Just going off.
All right, let's come out.
You're alright.
Okay, so
Want
do
me to
you
start?
wanna? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just start stowing everything. Gonna bring the camera up.
I wonder if some of those large pits that we saw that were bigger than even what might have been a beaked whale, if those were from some other large mammal, you know, maybe another whale just rolling on the seafloor, trying to get parasites off of them.
Yeah,
I know
getting
that orcas
trying
do
to
that.
shed parasites
Yeah.
is definitely something that crossed my mind too. It's just, you know, what would be all the way down here?
Alright, Fernando. What's going to zero returns?
Okay, so
Maybe they just don't know how deep it is, and they
you have
just
to
keep
go
going
to your
until they find the bottom.
I need to get rid of these parasites
Yeah.
now. They're driving
to your
me crazy.
starboard side.
If you want to, you can kind of back up back towards me.
Okay,
And,
and then
Well, we did get an unusual sample today, so it was a tunicate, right? A stalked tunicate.
That was what the consensus was. We went round and round about that.
We saw several of them. We saw a couple that weren't looking so good, actually, probably were no longer alive, but we did collect a fresh-looking specimen. So we're looking forward to seeing that when the ROV comes up on deck
alright.
okay.
in about 2 hours. Takes 2 hours to make the
Okay,
ascent
so
from
Sirius
this
turns.
depth to the surface.
You're gonna turn like 3/4 of a turn to your starboard, right?
Okay.
And then I gotta come
So we're going to sign off for now. We have a dive planning call
around
with
just
our
a 1/4 of a turn.
onshore team coming up
to
in
my
15
starboard
minutes.
side.
So Cheryl and I are
Alright,
going
so
to
you're
take
come
a
in my
break.
field of view and then turn with me?
Thanks for tuning in. This has been
Should I get right under you?
dive number
Or-
Yeah, you
3
can do that.
of
I can haul in.
the
Yeah, you
Windows
should get
to
a
the
little
Deep
closer.
expedition.
Yeah, so we come astern.
And I've been accompanied by Cheryl Morrison of the U.S.
Yeah,
Geological
there you go.
Survey. And I'm Leslie Sauter of College of Charleston. And we hope that you'll tune in tomorrow. Thanks very much. We learned a lot. Hope you did too.
Yeah, so get closer to me. Come underneath me here.